and welcome to the GuideWell Insights Lounge. I'm Jessica DeMassa. We are here in the Innovation Lab at Exponential Medicine, and I am joined by Dr. Jack Kreindler. Dr. Jack is the founder and chief medical officer for Centrion, and he's also someone who's helping a lot of startups, particularly in the exponential technology space, gain some traction in healthcare. So welcome, Dr. Jack.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me back.
Thank you. We appreciate it too. So let's talk a little bit about the business of exponential technologies. What's the state of play right now as far as companies trying to take these expo-techs and really integrate them into care delivery?
Yeah, I think it's actually really interesting. So this is the 5th year of exponential medicine as a conference, bringing this word, this phrase, exponential technologies to the fore. And I've been lucky enough to be exposed to this for literally the last 5 years. So what I'm seeing now is a very interesting thing. A lot of the stuff that we thought was going to be possible from a technical perspective is happening or has happened. So we've kind of got a whole stack of stuff that's ready for major wide-scale adoption in the market. And I think what we're really seeing now is this sort of inflection point, not so much of the technology, but of the adoption. Okay. But we're at the beginning of the curve. So I think that's the exciting thing right now, is not so much what we can do, but how we put it into play.
So how do we accelerate the pace of adoption? What does the bigger health system need to do to be able to incorporate these leading edge innovations more quickly?
Okay, so I've got...
Give me the game plan.
If I really had a plan, I would probably be running the show. I haven't, but I got a theory, and I think the theory falls into 3 parts. The first, I think, we're getting better at, which is the regulatory side of things. So, for instance, last year, this concept of enforcement discretion, for instance, by the FDA, being able to say, if something really is a very, very sophisticated device that is, built on extremely complex algorithms to make decisions, if it allows clinicians to contemplate the kind of suggestions, then it sort of falls in under clinical decision support and not a medical device. So we can iterate and improve without having to file 510K. So I think that is one major leap forward. But I still think there are lots of other areas where maybe in the regulatory space, we can work really, really hard with the regulators to kind of overcome some of those. Yeah, exactly. And basically, our regulatory frameworks, the way we build evidence, is still kind of different to the way we assess evidence.
Okay, talk more about that.
Well, I mean, for instance, let's say a big clinical trial may have like 500 people where you do something and 500 people where you don't do something, and you end up doing sort of a randomized, double-blind, controlled trial. But what happens if you take 1 million people over the course of 3 years? There's no exact control, but you're seeing how different things are affecting the outcomes of different people, and you can kind of start saying, well, in those kinds of people, when we've given X, Y, and Z, they've done better. When we've given A, B, and C, they've done worse. So let's actually build some new care pathways for A, B, and C versus X, Y, and Z. And that's like, something we can do with big data. It's not something that is the way we normally analyze, evidence in medicine. So I still think there are some things we can do. And of course, digital is one of those big ones. If we suddenly start getting data, real-world data, being collected in a sort of an uncontrolled way from tens of millions of people, let's say in the UK or in California or somewhere else, how do we kind of make that as robust as a regular clinical trial? So, it's an interesting thing that we're learning. We're learning how to interpret those data. The second thing, after regulatory, in my grand plan, well, whatever, is education. So, for instance, there were some fantastic talks this morning at the Exponential Medicine Conference with people like Larry Smarr, etc., who were talking about the volume and complexity of stuff that now the profession and the patient has to translate. It's not like you got this one thing wrong, which has gone up a bit, so there's this one thing that we know how much it costs that we can give you that we know kind of works. It's kind of, there are 55,000 things going on in your body that are moving like that, so we kind of know that this is the way we should tease things to sort of re-establish immune function or something. So this is another thing. Education is a huge thing.
Okay.
With the onset of a whole new wave of immunotherapies, for instance, in oncology,
Right.
with very much more sophisticated. Some of the stuff that I'm working on with very much more sophisticated multi-parameter signals that come from people, from their bodies at homes, and what is an indication of decompensation? Should we actually fire off some change in your therapy before you get sick? Never been done before.
Right.
How do we educate the profession to deal with that? And the third thing I still think is about, essentially the reimbursement. What is the incentive to do something that might cost you more somewhere, and then someone else makes the savings? Who ends up getting paid what to actually go through the process of education and then go and practice it on a daily basis? So those are the three areas. It's like getting it over the barriers of regulation, getting it over the barriers of education, and then it's this whole kind of, well, hey, who's going to get paid for it? So that's it. So I'm less worried about the technology. It's almost like, it's there. It's, you can just walk around the place and you can feel it.
See it.
Yeah.
But how do we really bring it into the market?
So the kind of, I think, given the last 5 years of exponential medicine, it's been a lot about tech with a little bit of, okay, then how do we do it? And now we're really feeling, okay, we've got it now, guys.
Like, let's
Next
go.
5 years is let's go. Yeah.
Deploy. So from your perspective, obviously you're involved with a lot of different startup companies. You have a startup of your own. Century, it's beyond startup at this point.
Yeah, a little bit.
So just a little. From your aspect as a businessman, as somebody driving these new innovative technologies to market and commercializing them, any tips for anybody else who wants to get into the game? What's your best advice?
Well, first of all, you mentioned as a businessman. First of all, don't trust me as a businessman, right? So I'm a dreamer more than a businessman. But I've come to learn a lot about the business of healthcare, and I think one of the things is, look, we're talking in the end about biology here. In a lot of ways, the whole of the industry of medicine is about changing biology, and biology and medicine. It takes time to do experiments in biology and medicine. So things that happen in digital and e-commerce, you can make changes, you can pivot, you can do lots of things, you can change your marketing, you can change your whole technology, and it's not going to affect the physical lives of people necessarily, not directly.
Right.
So it takes 9 months to bake a baby. You can't force things through to success, through to evidence, through to proof, faster than biology will let you.
Right.
At least not for the moment, until we simulate biology in machines. But that's another story.
Oh,
so for instance, let's say that you get investment, which is kind of, there's still a good amount of money coming into a lot of startups. So I don't think finding money, especially in the US market, is that hard. But attempting to push through experiments in medicine faster than they can actually occur is hard.
Okay.
It's actually impossible. And then there's pressure, because we're not talking about pure academic research, we're talking about venture. And so venture wants to push you forward.
Right.
I don't want to point fingers at any investors or any companies, but we've seen, recently with the whole thing with Theranos,
right.
We're great people with great ambitions and real passion and real money being committed behind it, trying to push stuff faster possibly than it can go, is a real thing to watch out for. So always remember, experiments take a long time in medicine. So that's number one. And I think the other thing is really always think about, this comes to the end point of those three things we were talking about, is who's going to end up getting paid more and who's going to end up getting paid less. And always have that, doesn't matter what your technology is, always have that at the forefront of your strategy. Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, that's excellent advice. So I would like to end on a real positive note with you, and I want to ask you, so obviously your 5th year here at Exponential Medicine, you've seen a lot of amazing technologies, some innovative ideas, like all through the course of the years. Right now, in this moment, what has you the most optimistic about the future of healthcare?
Well, in the 5 years that I've come here, my beard's got a bit grayer, and I'm hearing about some stuff that will probably fix edit my genes to in order to restore.
From what
that.
I hear, longevity is where it's at right now.
Yeah. So, aside from the fact that this technology has come a certain way, and that we're now ready to implement it and transform it into real outcomes at scale. I think for me, what we've been looking at a lot is how to manage a lot of the cost crises that are going on to create a more sustainable system for everyone and better outcomes. I think what is really interesting is that there's the whole new wave of bioengineering that's happening as well. I am extremely excited about the stuff that's going on quite a lot on the West Coast, but also very much on the East Coast of America, and actually in the UK as well.
Okay.
Taking what we now understand about the actual root causes at the cell level that end up producing these complex chronic diseases that affect us all and our economies, and instead of just managing them better, actually fundamentally rewriting the code of nature in order to not live forever, but certainly shrink the gap between health span and lifespan. And I'm extremely excited over the next 5 years about all that.
Excellent. Well, we hope to have you back
Thank you.
next year again, as well as the next 5, to talk a little bit more about this. Dr. Kreindler, thank you so much again for joining us. We always appreciate your insight.
Thanks very much.
Thank you so much. It's
Cheers.
been a pleasure chatting with you here. Thank you. This is Jessica DeMassa from the Guidewell Insights Lounge.